Andrew had always been a man of routine. He would wake up early, grab a quick cup of coffee, and head off to work, where he was a respected accountant. His life followed a comfortable and predictable pattern, and he didn't mind that at all. Married to Claire for 5 years, Andrew believed they had built a solid and happy life together. Claire was a loving and vibrant woman, and her presence brightened every corner of their home. However, everything would change in the blink of an eye. After a business trip, Andrew returned home eager to see Claire. He had been away for 3 days, and he felt the weight of longing in his heart. As he opened the door, a strange sensation of emptiness enveloped him. The silence in the house was oppressive, and there was no sign of Claire. He called out her name, but the only response was the echo of his own voice. The first thing that caught his attention was the absence of her shoes by the door. Claire always left them there, close to the entrance, but now they were missing. Andrew walked into the living room, where he found the sofa empty and the coffee table devoid of the books that usually lay scattered. His heart began to race. He made his way to the kitchen, but the scene was the same. The house, once filled with laughter and life, felt like an abandoned shell. Andrew picked up his phone and called Claire's number, but it went straight to voicemail. Panic began to set in. He then decided to search for her belongings. In the bedroom, he noticed that the bed was unmade, as if someone had left in a hurry. Claire's clothes were no longer in the closet, and when he looked inside, he saw that she had taken her most personal items, perfumes, makeup, and some jewelry. Desperation washed over him. What could have happened? Not knowing what to do, he grabbed his phone again and began sending messages to friends and family, asking if anyone had heard from Claire. He also started rummaging through the house, hoping to find some clue. He looked in every corner, in every room, but there was no sign of her. Despair turned into frustration. How could someone just disappear like this? He decided to ask the neighbors if they had seen Claire. He knocked on a few doors, but no one had any information. People looked at him with expressions of pity, but none of them knew anything. Andrew began to question his own sanity. It was as if Claire had evaporated, and the idea that she had chosen to leave everything behind without a word tormented him. But why? What had changed so drastically in such a short time? After hours of fruitless searching, Andrew decided to go to the police. When he arrived at the station, he introduced himself and explained the situation. The officer who attended to him seemed skeptical but agreed to file a missing persons report. "It's just an adult woman who decided to leave home," the officer said. "It's common for people to need space." This response felt like a punch in the gut to Andrew. He knew Claire wasn't like that, she would never abandon everything without a word. With the report in hand, Andrew returned home, his mind racing. He sat on the sofa, trying to process everything that had happened. He recalled happy moments, Claire's smile when she woke up, their romantic dinners, the trips they took together. Where had it all gone wrong? Doubt began to eat away at him. He wondered if he had done something to push her away, something he hadn't noticed. In the days that followed, Andrew continued his relentless search. He revisited all the places they used to go together, spoke with mutual friends, and even left messages on social media. Despair grew, and uncertainty consumed him. He felt lost, as if a part of him had been ripped away. The nights were long and agonizing, and he couldn't remember the last time he had slept well. A week after Claire's disappearance, he received an anonymous message on his phone. The text read, "She doesn't want to be found. Leave her alone." Andrew froze, reading the message several times, trying to decipher the meaning behind those words. Who could have sent that? How did someone know he was looking for Claire? The message filled him with fear and concern. Determined to understand what was happening, he began to investigate Claire's life, going through her belongings, social media, and messages. In her phone, he found exchanges that left him unsettled. They were conversations with a close friend, mentioning feelings of dissatisfaction and a longing for change. Her words were clear, Claire felt trapped, as if she were living a life that wasn't her own. A wave of pain hit him. He never realized she was so unhappy. Andrew began to reevaluate his own behaviors and attitudes. He remembered moments when he was so absorbed in work that he overlooked the signs that Claire was struggling internally. He felt guilty for not having noticed her sadness and for not having created a safe space where she could open up. The idea that he could have prevented all of this tormented him. In light of this new information, he decided to reach out to Claire's friend. She might know more about what was happening and perhaps even have a clue about Claire's whereabouts. He got her number and, with a trembling voice, called her. When the friend answered, he introduced himself and explained the situation. She hesitated before responding. "Look, I really don't know where she is," she said. "But I knew Claire was going through a tough time." Andrew begged her to tell him more. The woman took a deep breath and began to share. "Claire talked to me about how she felt about her life. She was worried about the routine, about the pressure of being the perfect wife, and often felt like she didn't have space to be herself. She needed time, a place where she could find herself." Those words hit him hard. He felt a wave of pain, but at the same time, he realized it was the truth. Claire wasn't blaming him, she was just trying to find her own identity. "I understand," he said, trying to hold back tears. "But I was so worried about you. I don't want you to feel alone." Claire remained silent for a moment, as if processing what he was saying. "I appreciate that, Andrew. And I know you care, but I needed time for me. I didn't know how to tell you. It wasn't that I wanted to leave, it was that I needed to figure out how to be myself without the pressures of the life we built together." Those words were like a knife in his heart. He felt the weight of their situation, but he also felt a glimmer of hope. After that conversation, something magical happened. The weight that had felt so heavy began to dissipate. They realized that they still loved each other, but they needed a new understanding of what that love meant. Claire didn't want to abandon Andrew, and Andrew didn't want to suffocate Claire. They wanted to find common ground, a place where they could both grow together and apart. Andrew then made a proposal. "What if we both took some time, not apart, but together, to explore what we really want out of life? We could travel, visit new places, rediscover what makes us happy, without the pressures surrounding us." Claire smiled, a light of hope shining in her eyes. "That sounds wonderful, Andrew. I would love to do that." And so, together, they decided to embark on a new journey. They didn't know what the future held, but they were willing to face it together. The search for happiness and the true essence of each of them would be the foundation for a renewed and stronger relationship. They moved away from the social pressure that had suffocated them and began to build a life based on authenticity, understanding, and true love. That morning by the lake, as the sun rose on the horizon, Andrew and Claire left behind the fear of the unknown and opened their hearts to a new chapter. The disappearance had not been the end but the beginning of a journey that promised to be richer and more rewarding. Life, like the lake before them, was full of possibilities and challenges, but now they knew they could navigate it together, always seeking what truly mattered, the happiness and freedom to be who they were.